Hello everyone. Today we are starting the story Laburnum for My Head by Temzula Au. This is a paraphrase of the story. Let us start with para 1. The story begins in a cemetery. The cemetery is situated in a sleepy little town. There is something extraordinary in this cemetery. There is a laburnum tree growing in the cemetery full of beautiful yellow flowers. The visitors were surprised at the presence of this tree in the cemetery. It started as a bush. As the time passed, it grew tall to be a tree. There was something wrong about its presence in a cemetery. A graveyard is a place where man tries to place concrete memorials for remembering the dead. People compete among themselves to erect large tombstones. Thus, the sacred graveyard became full with man's attempt to show off his vanity. In the recent times, people even started placing photographs of their dead on the tombstones. The story starts in a Gothic manner, describing cemetery and telling us about the mortality and man's attempt to resist it with memorials. The author seems to ridicule man's attempts to compete among themselves for installing larger tombstones. Now let us move on to the paraphrase of the second paragraph. Though the cemetery is full of concrete structures, nature tries to grow weeds and plants in areas not covered by stone and cement. During the Easter, relatives of the dead people will come and clean the tombstones of their dear ones to uproot the weeds. Sometimes strangers also visit the graveyard to read the inscriptions on the tombstones, just to pass time. Someone was buried under the drooping branches of Laburnum Tree in the cemetery. No man-made things can be seen beside it. Nature controls the place under the tree. The tree spreads over the remains of dead and poor alike. The tombstones in the cemetery are silent witnesses to the duties performed by relatives of the dead. Some are willing to do such rituals. Some are not willing. The laburnum tree stands there alive. In the month of May, it is more attractive. In summer, the flowers turn brown. In winter, the tree seems thin and broken. In spring, it will be green again. It outshines all the concrete stuff in the cemetery. Now, the author moves to the story of how the laburnum tree started growing in the cemetery. This is a flashback. The story of these laburnum trees, the story of the laburnum tree in the cemetery starts years ago. The story is about a woman named Lentina who wished to have some laburnum bushes in her garden. She loved these flowers. She believed that the flowers had some femininity associated with it. She thought that they were quite different from the masculine features of the gulmohars. As the flowers of laburnum hung down, she interpreted it as their humility, their humble nature. So, she decided to grow a laburnum bush in her garden. She purchased some saplings from a nursery and planted them along the wall. She hoped that within 2 years the flowers will bloom, as the nurseryman assured her. However, her new gardener pulled them out along with some weeds. Lentina again bought some and planted again. This time, some stray cows entered her garden and dogs chased them away. The cows had eaten the laburnum saplings. In the 3rd year, she planted again. Finally, this year, they survived and started growing up. The author describes how nature tries to claim her superiority by growing in places where there is no stones and cement. There are no stones and cement. The laburnum tree and the tombstones under the branches were not affected by human intervention at all. Then, the author starts telling about how the tree sprouted up in the graveyard. It is the story of a woman named Lentina who wished to grow a laburnum plant in her garden. Lentina is the protagonist of the story. So hope you understood the story by far. We will continue in the next class. Thank you.